Winter weather advisories are up for much of the area from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. Sadly, though, not along the coast for the snow lovers or the winter weather lovers there. Winter storm warnings up north of Route 84 from upstate New York through Connecticut and points northward as they get ready for some solid accumulating snows. Hang on a second. Forgot to do that. Okay. Also tonight, as we look at all of this, well, we've got snow amounts and ice forecast amounts and everything else you need to know regarding the next round of winter weather right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. They still got plenty of rock salt and sand for you to make sure that your home or your business is clean and safe on the outside. And just in case you need a snowblower, it's probably not going to be much in the way of snow in areas to the south, on Long Island, for example. But inland, further inland, if you need a snowblower, spreaders, shovels, bag, ice pellets and flakes or pelledo, and of course tons of rock salt at the lowest prices around. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the phone number. They will be open early tomorrow morning, like 5 a.m., in case you need anything. And the website, as only Joe Rayo can do it, is
OmniTrueValue.com. And good evening to you. No guest tonight. Just you and I.
Just you and I. Just you and I. Yes.
Or just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
We can make it if we're trying. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, anyhow, this weather system's going to come and go and do its thing. And if it would be easier if it was just all snow. It really would. Because when you start putting that part of the equation for the areas that are going to get sleet and freezing rain, I'm thinking southern Connecticut, the southern half of Connecticut, south of Route 84, where you are, up to and even north of Route 84 for a distance. There's going to be a prolonged period of sleet and maybe some freezing rain in there. That's going to make it really dicey. That same also holds for northwest New Jersey and northeastern Pennsylvania. Further north, you go up to the I-90. It should be mostly snow. There may be some sleet gets involved at some point toward the end, but they still should get a fairly decent large amounts of snow. Let's call it 6 inches or more. But that sleet rain line is so tenuous. It cuts right across Long Island Sound. It goes right across Westchester County and then along or just north of 287. It ain't going to be fun tomorrow.
No, it is not. And by the way, on the chat board, Meatloaf A asks the question, matching shirts?
Oh, close.
We do have, look at that. It's kind of weird. But you see, folks, when you get above 60 years of age, this is the kind of stuff that you start to wear with increasing frequency.
I love these, the flannel stuff. Oh God, do I love them.
Oh yeah.
They're keep.
I love flannel.
They keep you warm in the winter time. They keep you cool in the. I got to 70 today, so I had, I had this on. I was comfortable, even though I could have probably gone with shorter sleeves, but nonetheless, yeah, no, I'm a flannel fan. I got what, 4 flannel jackets, and those are great, unless it's really really cold. But I'm getting a break. My grass is turning green out here in the farmland.
Rub it in.
Yeah, so it's.
Go ahead, rub it in.
Yeah.
I just, this week I've been enjoying my first full views of my lawn in quite some time, especially since yesterday we got up almost 70 degrees. And today, look at this. It was like barely making it above 30. Right now it is at 30 degrees. And tomorrow I'll not see my lawn again for a while because it looks like it's going to be covered by a few inches at least of what you just mentioned, snow, sleet, ice. And then, we're going to try to warm up a little bit Saturday and again Sunday, and then we go right back into the icebox again. after a frontal passage, a cold frontal passage on Sunday night, which we were talking about yesterday, might actually lead to a little bit of snow shower and maybe another round of squall activity for late Sunday. But we'll get to that, I'm sure, later.
Yeah, the trough this time around is, well, if it had been like it was a couple of days ago, we'd have a different conversation. But uh, the trough this time around, as opposed to last Saturday, from what I noticed, it's sharp. It's sharp, but it's not sharp as sharp as the one that last Saturday's, the last weekend's round of snow squalls. So let's see what happens. I put it in there. I certainly mentioned it. And I think there's also another cold high coming later next week for the latter part of next week that's coming down with some very cold air. So you may warm up a little bit ahead of it before that cold front goes by. But at least through next week, it looks like it's going to be quiet, so weather-wise, which is a good thing for us.
Which we could use.
Yeah, we certainly could use. Joe Rayo monitoring the chat board. Any questions or comments? Just put them on there, and we'll see if we can get to them. Everybody has been playing nice in the sandbox lately, so that's good. So this way, Daddy doesn't have to get upset here. But make sure everybody plays nice in the sandbox. And of course, if you're new to the YouTube channel tonight, welcome aboard. Joe and I are on here with the Joe and Joe Weather Show 5 days a week. Sunday mornings, which is our next show, because we take Friday and Saturday off. Usually, unless there's a storm going on, or one pending, and thankfully there isn't. So Sunday mornings we're on at 11 o'clock Eastern time, and then on Monday through Thursday you can catch us every Monday through Thursday at usually at 7:30, unless Joe has a speaking engagement, which occasionally he does have, and then we usually push the show up to 8 o'clock or 8:30.
I actually do have a speaking engagement on Wednesday, but it starts at 6 o'clock, which means I will be free by 7:30 for the Joe and Joe show. So no interruptions in the schedule next week.
Awesome. All right, let's get going here. As we take a look, first off, let's run through all the warnings and advisories, Joe. Winter storm warnings up through much of upstate New York, except in the western part of New York State, where they have winter weather advisories. We've got winter storm warnings for the northern half of Connecticut, into Rhode Island, Massachusetts, on up to Vermont, New Hampshire, and about half of Maine. Northern Maine is not into anything at the moment. Advisories, winter weather advisories cover northern Nassau and northwestern Suffolk counties on Long Island. They do not cover the South Shore. So if you're on the North Service Road of the Long Island Expressway, you have a winter weather advisory. If you're on the south side of the Long Island Expressway, you are not in a winter weather advisory because it just magically stops. They got to draw a line someplace. You get the idea. Winter weather advisories up for New York City, the northern New Jersey, mainly along and north and west of the New Jersey Turnpike. Almost all of Pennsylvania except that purple area in southwest PA where we have ice storm warnings in effect. That area is forecast to get a quarter to a half an inch of ice accretion. And advisories extend across Ohio, Indiana, southern Michigan, Illinois, southern Wisconsin, back into Missouri, and northern Arkansas. Flash flood watches across parts of Tennessee, southern Kentucky, and into West Virginia. Thankfully, the rest of the U.S. Is on the quiet side. The light blue you see up in the Dakotas reflects bitter cold air with wind chill advisories, and that cold air mass is coming in behind us, but not in full strength. We'll get colder, but we're not going to get crazy cold by any stretch of the imagination. And here it comes, Joe. We had this little system that ran out ahead today. Produced a few people messaged me that they had some snowflakes flying around, and now we're getting the.
I saw snowflakes this morning.
You did?
Yeah,
okay.
I wasn't even in Putnam Valley. I actually ended up for a short while this afternoon in Manhattan, and it was flaking. Yes, it. No big deal though. It came and it went, and going back home on the Taconic, going north, I saw a stripe of beautiful, just a stripe now, of beautiful deep blue skies, and I said to myself, boy, I tell you, that cold air is really, predominant, cold and dry, to actually open up a few rifts in the clouds, and I said to myself for about 2 seconds, I said, gee, wouldn't it be nice if that cold air, that big fair weather high was so strong, it would push this next disturbance well south, let's say down toward Cape May or the Delmarva Peninsula, and just let us high and dry for tonight and tomorrow. Sadly, that probably is not going to be the
Well,
case.
I was looking at the observations. The dew points were down in the single digits in a lot of spots, or at best
Yeah.
in the low teens. I mean, that's very cold, dry air, bitter cold air up in eastern Canada. That's if it wasn't for that, this thing would be flying up to our west like the last couple of systems did. But it's that high that's sort of holding it in. And I pointed this out last night. I'm going to point it out again. If you're wondering why this system is winding up further north than maybe some of the models were showing back days ago, if you look on the lower right, you'll see those clouds. It's a little harder to see once the sun sets there, but there's an upper low that's east-northeast of Puerto Rico that's sitting out there. And what that upper low did was the ridge that's been off the southeast coast that was supposed to get flattened, well, that upper low is effectively pumping up that ridge, not by a lot, but ever so slightly, but it was certainly enough to maybe shift the emphasis here of where the ice snow line would have been. It wound up shifting it up by about maybe 40 or 50 miles, which is making all the difference in the world for places like New York City. Instead of sitting here waiting for a 6-inch snowfall, you're dealing with maybe a little snow and a longer period of sleet and perhaps some freezing rain. And those areas along and south and west of there are dealing with just freezing rain and sleet. So that upper low is the reason why, if you want to blame anybody, if you snow lovers out there, you want to blame anybody, you blame that upper low because that's the one that's at fault.
Well, you have to blame somebody, Joe, or something, right?
Yes.
And here we're talking about something that's down in the Caribbean that is adversely influencing our weather here for tonight and tomorrow. But that's the way weather goes sometimes.
Yes. Now you get your snowfall forecast map ready because
I don't have one.
no, you didn't have the one from yesterday?
Well, I still have the one from yesterday, but in looking at the stuff that I had in the few moments I had before the show, because I didn't get home until like late, but I said to myself, well, maybe I overdid, the snow amounts a bit from yesterday.
All right.
And I will eventually after the show tonight, when I get finally settled in here, I may actually put together a new snow map based upon the stuff that came out this afternoon and maybe some of the stuff that's coming out this evening. Although, again, now I'm going against my rule of, you get to a certain point where you can't forecast anymore. You got to nowcast.
Right.
But for me, looking at the stuff that came out, the usual time, that's new to me because I hadn't had a chance to look at it until, again, a brief look just before we started the show. So.
All right. Well, I had updated mine last night and I didn't change it today, so I'm going to be pulling up the same map that I had yesterday and uh, verbally make a few little, put a little few footnotes and a few asterisks on there. Radar. Let's take a look. We've got precipitation now moving into West Virginia and northwestern Virginia. Freezing rain and some snow on the northern end up in Ohio. You're seeing some echoes starting to show up aloft in western PA. This is going to fill in relatively quickly because between now and 1 o'clock in the morning, Joe, we're going to see that precip break out across Pennsylvania, Maryland, and then eventually into New Jersey. I think it probably reaches New York City, southern New England, say midnight or 1 a.m., and probably reaches the Boston area maybe about 4 a.m., 5 a.m.
Yeah, it's gonna slowly but surely plod north and eastward. But I think a lot of people are happy this evening that they didn't have to deal with this for the evening commute tonight. But you are going to have your hands full. It is going to be a tough go tomorrow morning. And this week is President's Day week, and some schools, but not all schools, were closed this week. You get the winter break or whatever. But for those schools that did stay open after Monday, I heard a whole bunch of them, at least up here in the Hudson Valley, already announcing that they're shut down and not going to be opening tomorrow morning. Not with the forecast calling for snow and then sleet and then freezing rain, and a real messy kind of situation for your day to start off on Friday morning.
Yeah, I noticed a couple of times this week when I was looking at the analytics of my website, and I could see in real time where the hits are coming from. And there was actually a number of people from Florida. So those are folks that took their kids and went down to Florida for the week for spring break, uh, which at least from the standpoint of the weather down in Florida this week, it's been pretty good. So you certainly worked out for you. Meanwhile,
Right.
right, and meanwhile, we're going to be playing with where's the rain ice line going to be? Where is the snow ice line going to be? And if you're in that zone, it's funny how the zone sets up probably right across the most populated areas, just north of Philadelphia to right around New York City, or just north of New York City, across Long Island Sound. As I said earlier, I think it may stop right at I-95 in Connecticut, in which case the southern half of Connecticut for tomorrow and even into Rhode Island could wind up with hours. I mean, tonight into tomorrow when it gets underway, could wind up with hours of just sleet after some snow for a couple of hours anyway. But it's going to be curious to see how this all pans out.
And I
WPC,
think there's going to be a
go
I
ahead.
think there's going to be an initial thump, which could put down a few inches, especially so in places like Dutchess County, Ulster, Sullivan County. You may pick up initially a good 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 inches before any kind of a changeover occurs to sleet or ice, and that's not nice. Having all of that on, and then have ice on top of that. Further to the south, maybe not quite as much snow, but I think, Joe, I think everybody is going to. I mean, even down in the New York City area, everybody will start as snow initially, and then gradually, as the milder air works its way northward or tries to work its way northward, we'll see the change to sleet ice. Coastal areas, New York, you'll probably see a complete flip to plain rain before too long. But places to the north, and I'm in that area, that zone, watch for the changeover to be mostly to sleet and ice, and that'll make for a fun morning tomorrow morning. It could be as little, I think, here as 2 inches, but if we get a thump, we might have to be aware of maybe 4 or 5 inches of the white stuff before the changeover. It does not look like a very nice and if it were to stay all snow everywhere, that is what in the old parlance we would call a well-behaved. The storm is bringing us just one thing, snow. But no, this is not a well-behaved storm. This is a storm that's going to give us a little of everything, depending upon where you are: snow, ice, sleet, rain. It just is going to be just a full-scale mess here, I think, by early tomorrow morning.
I'm loading up since temperatures are going to be so critical here. Thought it'd probably be a good idea to load up the hazards map, this interactive hazards map that the Weather Service has, which I absolutely love, by the way, and especially in instances like this, because at the very least, I can see what everybody's doing in the temperature department, and we can also see how how strong is this cold air that's up to the north. Albany right now is 21. So obviously it's cold up there. We've got White Plains at 30. It's all either 31 or 32 on Long Island. There's a stray 34, I believe that's at Kennedy Airport. The winds are northeast there. The dew points are still the dew point at Kennedy is
Single
12.
digits,
12 at Kennedy.
almost.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
there are some single digit dew points in here. Caldwell, for example, is 34 with a dew point of 7. We've got Somerville in New Jersey, in Somerset County. They're 34 with a dew point of 10. There's not a lot of wind
Ah,
either, so the winds are all the wind bars
right.
are 5 knots or less. So you're going to get some evaporational cooling if you get some intensity, you might knock the temperature down by a degree or two, which is going to be very important. Danbury in Connecticut right now, with Oxford Waterbury, I'm sorry, is 27 with a dew point of 7. Danbury is 30 with a dew point of 8. And Boston right now is 27 and 7. Albany's 21 and 8. Further south, we're looking in southeast. I'm looking in southeast and south central PA. Most temperatures there are hovering around the 30-degree mark, plus or minus. Dew points are in the mostly low 20s. South Jersey, 32, 33, except right at the coast where it's about 33, 34. And you even got readings down below freezing into Maryland. So the cold air has bled down far enough south. If this were going to be something in terms of the southern part of this, which is dealing with all the mixing issues, at the very least you would have wanted to see temperatures instead of Albany sitting at 21, for example, you'd like to see them maybe down at 15, so that these temperatures would be about 5 degrees lower, at least at the low levels. But you also need it's the upper levels that are warming quick that are the issue here because of the ridge
Right,
that's off the east coast. But
right,
nonetheless, very important map. What Joe was mentioning about nowcasting, this is if you're going to go on the computer and look at something, this is what you look at. You look at your temperature profiles, you look at your dew points, your wind, and this will give you a good idea of whether the cold air is going to be more important. And we will know in just a few hours how important that the cold air is. Now, WPC, Joe, on their map, they started out this morning with a 50% probability of at least 2 inches straddling the north shore of Long Island. Since then, they've kind of nudged it we're literally talking nudging it about 20 miles, actually even maybe 10 miles, because the line cuts across Long Island Sound, the 50% line. White Plains is in the 50%, north of the 50% line. Northwest Jersey is north of that 50% line. And of course, you go a little bit further north, up near Route 84 and Points North, then you start to get into the 80, 90, 95% plus probability of at least 2. And I'll switch it over to the probability for at least 4. So you'll see where the bigger snows are. And
right,
yeah, Massachusetts, almost all of Massachusetts, 80%. Northern Connecticut, 80% or higher. Northern Rhode Island. The uh, the cold air is actually wedging down from the northeast. So that's sort of why you have this east-west look to the snow probability map. So very large area there of at least 4 inches. So there are going to be places up in Vermont and New Hampshire that are going to and into Maine and northern and into Massachusetts that are going to wind up with 8, 9, or 10 inches out of this, assuming that the sleet is not going to be a problem. And then with freezing rain, they've nudged the 50% for at least a tenth of an inch accretion into northern New Jersey, not quite into northeastern New Jersey, where the probability there is about 30% in the far northeastern corner, but they have it touching New York City. They tail it off. This is a tenth of an inch. Doesn't mean there can't be under a tenth of an inch, and the local offices are forecasting that for parts of Long Island, for example, and back to New York City and points inland of the coast in New Jersey. But you can see where the big probability is of at least a tenth of an inch in that area in southwestern PA where we have the ice storm warning. So Pennsylvania is going to get uh, there's going to be quite a bit of freezing rain that's going to be going on in Pennsylvania.
that's where they've got they've had that for the last 2 or 3 days. The greatest threat, the greatest risk of a significant glaze or significant icing in places over toward central or east central Pennsylvania, and that's the danger zone, if you will. That's the place that you do not want to be in late tonight, and especially during the first part of tomorrow, because it could get very slick and slippery. And also, with that much ice projected, you could also have the downing of some trees or large tree limbs, and also the downing of power lines. So there could be some power issues there too. Not to say that there could even be some power issues in the immediate New York area, but it looks like we're going to escape the worst of it in terms of the ice, and we're going to escape the worst of it in terms of the snow. But still, it is going to be enough to make for a very problematic morning tomorrow morning for all of you who are unfortunate enough to have to go out and commute, because it's not going to be pretty.
All right. On to the speaking of pretty, on to the my snowfall forecast map. This was my I updated my early call yesterday because it was obvious to me that that my initial forecast, which was a little more aggressive, for example, where I had the 1 inch line, I had the 2 inch line. Now those things are important to me. That even though we're only talking about 1 inch versus 2 inches, but there's always that person out there who's like like the mom who yells at their kids, or the dad in front of everybody, or the dad that screams at the neighborhood kids for walking on his lawn. You said there's got to be 2 inches, and I only had one. It's like, okay, but this is what I wound up updating, and I just left it alone. So I basically,
and don't shoot your eyes out either.
That's right. So
yeah,
the areas from the 4 inch line south, okay, from the 4 inch line south, sleet is going to be in there, and the further south you are from that 4 inch line, the more sleet you're going to get. So the numbers say around Long Island, for example, and I have from Route 78 northward in New Jersey to the 2 inch line, and then through Allentown in Pennsylvania and back up to State College. Here we're talking about 1 to 2 inches of maybe a mix of snow and sleet. It might wind up being more sleet than anything else. In some places, it might wind up being a little more snow. But the bottom line is those what the numbers are. And then you see where I have the 6 inch plus line drawn from Boston, going through the Catskills into Sullivan County, swinging around to go west of Binghamton, and then on up west of I-81, just west of Syracuse. And I should have drew the line further north to Lake Ontario, but you get the idea. And then, of course, in that area from central New Jersey, south and west into Maryland and northeastern Virginia, actually might even extend a little bit further south than that, it's basically sleet at the start that goes to freezing rain and then maybe ends as a little bit of rain. The sleet should accumulate to probably less than an inch, or if there's a little snow in the mix. And the same goes here. The further north you go to the 4 inch line, the less you're going to see in the way of sleet. Obviously, the further south, then the sleet becomes a more long duration type of situation, and then it goes over to freezing rain anyway. So just bear that in mind. And we do have. I want to bring up the ice accretion map. Let's see if I can get that. Let's go like this, and we'll pull up the ice accretion map. This is the Weather Service's ice accretion map. So in that area, Joe, where they have the ice storm warnings up, they're looking at a quarter of an inch to a third of an inch, but probably could probably be a little bit higher than that. You could see the extent of a tenth of an inch to 2/10 in New Jersey, in the Hudson Valley, into Connecticut south of Route 84, but north of Route 15. And at least several hundredths of an inch of ice accretion for parts of Long Island, the Connecticut South Shore. And I guess they figured out that in that little patch there between Atlantic City and Philadelphia, Joe, that might be where I don't know if there are hills down there. I'm not sure if that's where it is, but they got a .02.
Incidentally, Joe, at least where I am, we're still looking at, or at least I'm still looking at your final call. If you put up there you go.
Yeah.
All right. The ice accretion just came up.
Okay. So, sorry about that.
Looks like I'm running a little behind here.
It's that nasty delay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, if I get that,
but you could see
if I get that broadband in the next 3 or 4 months, maybe the delay will be a lot shorter.
But you could see why they have the warning for ice. I mean, around Alpena, for example, you got 0.26, 0.30, 0.24. That's a very significant. Well, those are very significant set of numbers for when you're talking about icing, and that indeed could be a dangerous situation. It could bring down a few trees and power lines, and that's where that looks like to be the epicenter. That looks like where the icing is going to be at its worst. We're looking at up in the Hudson Valley, only about half as much in terms of ice accretion or ice thickness as compared to those zones, well to the west and south. So what else can I tell you? We've got the snow, we've got the icing, if you will, on top. Some folks along the coast and in New York City, you'll see a change over to just plain rain. They'll kind of mush everything up for you for tomorrow morning's commute. So, like I said, this looks like it's going to be one of the messier mornings coming up tomorrow morning. Probably on the same or paralleling that storm we had early in January, where initially we saw, lots of snow, and then all of a sudden it changed over to ice. But if memory serves me correct, that storm in early January, even here where I am, we eventually saw temperatures climb to around 40 degrees. That's not going to happen tonight or tomorrow.
Right.
No way. No way that's going to happen.
Right. The precip's just going to eventually just shut off around midday anyway. So then everything moves out. I got the snow map up from the Weather Service, so you can see where the big amounts are. Up in Massachusetts, Boston could get every bit of 9 or 10 inches. Worcester forecasting 10. In through Vermont and New Hampshire, it's all 10-inch plus amounts. Albany, they're forecasting 11. Timothy Veltman must be jumping for joy and just praying that the sleet line doesn't make it up there. 5 for, I guess that's Kingston. Where that is that Kingston or is that Route 84? I can't see. No, that might be that's Poughkeepsie. 5 for Poughkeepsie. 2 in southwestern Connecticut. I guess that could be Stamford. 3 at Bridgeport. 3 at New Haven. A coating to an inch or so across Long Island. Some 3-inch amounts in northern New Jersey, northernmost New Jersey, near the New York state line, and then the amounts tail off as you go further south. And again, that could be a combination of snow and sleet, or it might even be just plain old sleet. And you see what happens in Pennsylvania. Not a whole lot of snow for PA. Northern PA will get 4 or more. The mixing area may make it all the way up to the New York state line there, because the amounts are definitely lower. And then you see it all shuts off south of Harrisburg, just north and west. Trenton's kind of right on the edge of whether you see some sleet or snow, and north and west of Philadelphia. Also, the line is just north and west of Philadelphia. So it's the bigger amounts that you see up in central New England, benefiting from the fact that because of the low tracking, the primary low tracking into western Pennsylvania and lasting a little while longer before it kind of jumps to Nantucket and then moves on to the east, and that makes a big difference in terms of the final outcome.
Now, there are 2 questions on the chat board. I will take this first question, and then you will field the second, which is from Izzy D. But the first question is from Mountain Biker 49, who writes, "Hey, Joes, why do we get a lot of clippers some years and essentially none other years? What does the pattern have to be like? It seems like it's been a while since we've gotten those multi 2 to 3 inch snowfalls." And, Mountain Biker, basically what you need for a year for a lot of clippers is you need to have that polar vortex, that upper low, up across the northern sections of Canada. But you need to have it, I guess, elongated, if you will, have it continuously turn, almost like the blade of a or propeller blade. And at the ends of each one of those blades, you will find a surface low, which if the upper low is rotating rapidly enough, you'll have these systems that are coming on down from Western Canada and down through into South Central Canada and across the Great Lakes into our section of the country. And, we don't really get all that much usually with clippers. I mean, if they go to our north, we hardly get much of anything. But sometimes you get those years where the clippers dive south, well to the south, let's say through the Ohio Valley and off of South Jersey or off the Delmarva. And once they get their feet wet and start intensifying, that's where we get the quickie, 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 inch snowfalls that we get when we have a year for clippers. But if we don't have that pattern that constantly delivers those systems from Western Canada through the Great Lakes and into our area, if we don't see that, it's just, it's not going to happen. It's, in fact, then we end up with a situation where the storms more or less come up out of the Gulf and along the coast or passing off to our west, in which case we get, a hatful of rain or snow changing to rain or just plain snow. So you're right. The patterns are very different, very distinct, and some years favor one over the other. This year, Joe, it doesn't seem like we have seen too many of the Clipper type storms. We seem to have seen not a few of these storms with all the moisture coming up from the south. Case in point, what we're looking at right now for tonight and tomorrow: the snow, the sleet, the ice, and even the rain. Now, the other question, it was asked by Izzy
I can
D,
see it
and
here.
I'll have you answer
I
that.
have it
Uh,
because
Yeah,
I'm monitoring. I'm watching the chat board on my phone. I would just add to what you said, Joe. I think it's also cyclical because uh, in that period from 1970 to 2000, we saw a lot of those, and we saw many more snowfalls that were 4 inches or less, and very few snowfalls that were 6 inches or more in that 30-year stretch. And in the last 20 or so years, it's been the exact opposite. We're seeing fewer of those 1 to 3, 2 to 4 types, and more of the bigger ones. The thing is that in some winters we see you see a few bigger storms, but you only get like 3 or 4 for the whole winter. If you go back and look at some of these winters, it might have played out that way. But I think it's just whatever cycle we're in. Certainly in the last 20 years, it's been 2 decades of bigger storms dominating that have put down 6 or more, or even 10 or more, as opposed to the ones
right.
that were putting down 2 to 4. So Izzy asks about the RAP model. And he says, why on Pivotal Weather snow map on RAP was showing a dusting or a coating uh, uh, over him, where he's over in just south of him in South Jersey, and nothing north of Route 195. I don't know. I'm not sure why it did that. The only thing is I don't know what time you were looking at. So it's possible that it was, if you looked at this earlier in the day, it might have been showing that patch of that little whatever it was south of 195 because of that lead disturbance that came out this morning and into this afternoon. That's the only thing I could think of. So if you were looking at an older version of the run that covered the time frame for this afternoon, say, maybe that's what it picked up on to show that little area of snow to your south, which who knows if maybe somebody got a couple of flakes enough to put a few little white dots inside the spaces in between the concrete, but that would be about it. All right, so let's look at let's take a look. Let's go to the HRRR. We're looking at these short range models, and I just right now what we're seeing is, and I noticed this, it's from run to run. It's either now it's like it's 10 miles further north with the snow ice line, or 10 miles further south. It's like, what are we looking at here? But here it is on the HRRR. This is the latest one, which is the 23Z run. The 0Z run is just starting. And I noticed, Joe, on this particular run, you get that it's all sleet that comes in. In fact, there's no snow in northern New Jersey. There's no snow even but there's briefly. So initially, what happens is the precip comes up, it hits that cold air, and you'll notice that between um, between what time is that? 7, 8. Okay, so from 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., you'll notice the sleet just north of northern New Jersey and southern Connecticut suddenly disappear and become snow. That's the cold air of the north fighting all of this. You got this, this warmer air and this moisture that's pushing northward, and that cold air is really trying very hard to fight it. So at least for an hour or two, it actually stops and pushes the sleet line a little bit further to the south. And on some runs during today, it actually pushed the snow area into Long Island for a few hours, like the darker blue, moderate to heavy snow. And then, of course, eventually, now this is at 6 a.m. It still hasn't moved. So after an initial push, it's just sitting there like it's just a wall. And then finally, I'm sorry, that was 5 a.m. So at 6 a.m., you start to see the warmer air slowly beginning to win out. But it doesn't win out by much because it changes to rain in Long Island Sound, but all of Connecticut is in sleet. It looks like it's sleet even down to about the Bronx, the northern part of the Bronx and northern New Jersey. And
Riverdale.
yeah, then it kind of punches up there at around 9 a.m. and then at 10 a.m. it's already done on the HRRR. So just
Right.
moving right along. So here's your start times if you want to use the HRRR for your start times. So this is midnight, and you start to see that precip filling in and breaking out. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4, 5, 6, 7 a.m., 8, 9, 10. Look at Connecticut and Rhode Island. I mean, they're just sitting in sleet for hours, about 5 hours worth of sleet here. And then, of course, you notice the primary. Look at the primary low into Western Pennsylvania. It holds on to it. It just takes it up into upstate New York and takes it to Rochester. And Tony Gigi said last night that that could be a model flaw because it likes to do that, and the NAM likes to do it too. So we have to pay attention. It's not showing that center jump at least through 18 hours that should occur with a low forming south of Long Island, even though the isobar is kind of closed there, but it doesn't print the L. But that low becomes the main low as it moves on out toward Nova Scotia. So uh, there's not much more we can add to this, folks. At this stage of the game, you know where you live. You can see where you live relative to the map, to what the guidance is showing. And I have quite a few people that live in that zone where it's very, very close to the rain snow line. So you're just going to have to, you can sort of figure it out what you're going to wind up having here. Is it going to be more snow? Is it going to be more ice? Is it going to be more rain? And then it goes away. It goes out tomorrow, and weather conditions should improve during the afternoon from west to east.
Now I'm sharing right now, Joe, the map I showed last night. Low tracks and clusters. The preferred tracks are in black. This is a map that was issued this afternoon at 1:46. Now, yesterday,
Hang on,
this map was drawn by.
I'm putting it up on the screen right now. You got it. It's up.
Okay. Okay. So yesterday, this map was written, or not written, but drawn by a forecaster at Weather Prediction Center by the name of Jackson. Tonight, or this afternoon, the person who did this map was a gentleman by the name of Snell. Now, if you remember when I was showing the map by Jackson yesterday, there were not one but two clusters. There was one down near Pittsburgh, but there was another one up near Erie, Pennsylvania. And Jackson decided that he was going to place the storm system, the preferred position of the storm, over Pittsburgh. And I said, it's interesting. There's almost as many models or ensemble members, apparently, that are indicating that the storm could very well be up near Erie as opposed to being down near Pittsburgh. But he chose Pittsburgh. Well, look at this. Today, Snell decided that he would go the other way and go with the storm tracking up near Erie, Pennsylvania. This is as of tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. At the same time, we have a secondary that's off the South Jersey coast. Jackson had that yesterday as well. And then I guess the assumption is that this primary is going to disappear or get completely absorbed by the increasing energy of this secondary, because when we get to 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, here is just one singular storm south and east of Nova Scotia. So this storm apparently moving along the Appalachian Trail is apparently going to reach Erie, Pennsylvania, or northwestern Pennsylvania, and die a quick death. And then it's this storm that's off of New Jersey that'll take over and move away to the north and east.
Well, the issue is that storm, the Jersey storm, is not taking over fast enough in order to cut the warm air off for those areas that are going over to a mix or rain.
Right. It looks like this storm the inland storm will be the primary for a while. But I'm just questioning. I said, does he actually believe that this storm, if you do some extrapolation, this storm should be somewhere up near Montreal by tomorrow night? But there isn't. There's no storm. So I guess he's, or she, because I don't know if Snell is a male or a female person or forecaster, but whoever that person is just assumes arbitrarily that this will be the last position that we'll see of the primary storm, because after that, it's nowhere. And the secondary storm apparently takes over, but I guess it doesn't take over or intensify, as you said, Joe, fast enough to cut off the warm air from off of the ocean and prevent the the sleet and ice from predominating in our area for.
Super chat hits. Just want to acknowledge Izzy D hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Izzy. Hope we were able to answer your question satisfactorily. Brandon hitting super chat. Thank you, Brandon, in Delaware. Joe, a question from Jason Barry, and he'd like to know, because you are the king of the F-Gen, so he would like to know if the F-Gen is showing anything of significance, at least from the standpoint maybe of a front-end thump.
Well, the funny thing is with the F-Gen is that it has a lot of the energy north of us for much of this storm. I'm going to take a look here. I'm going to see what the 18Z. I'll look at the mesoscale and look at the NAM, because I think the NAM always provides us with the best view in terms of F-Gen. And there really isn't any F-Gen, Joe, with this particular system. And in fact, what F-Gen there is stays up north, like across the Adirondacks and the Green Mountains of Vermont, and up near Montreal, and that is for 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and then it continues. But now there's another area of F-Gen that is moving in on us by.
By the way, you have the
9 or 10Z.
You could share screen here if you want to show everybody.
All right. We'll do that. And get the share screen thing in, and boom and boom. So yeah, so here we are. Let me just back up a little bit and show you all that there is some energy, there is some omega up here at, let's say, 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's when it supposedly is going hot and heavy here. And then, yeah, around 9 or 10Z, which is what? That's 4 or 5 a.m. our time. There's a lot of that omega. Look at that. It stretches right across the Hudson Valley to the far east end of Long Island. So maybe, just maybe, if you're looking for intensity, and if you live in the Hudson Valley area, especially from my area, points north, up toward Dutchess, Columbia County, Sullivan, Ulster, that could be where we're going to see some rather dynamic activity, some maybe moderate to heavy activity taking place during the early hours of the morning, the pre-dawn hours. And then as we continue, all of that moves up, past Boston by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And that pretty well is it. I'm not sure what this is. Because by this time, by 19Z or 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, it pretty well should be over with. So I don't know if this is just going to translate, Joe, into lingering cloud cover. But it doesn't seem like there's going to be much of anything by later tomorrow afternoon. And then that moves on out. And then we're just into a spell of cold and dry for Saturday and on into Sunday as well.
Might
as well look
at Sunday.
Take a look, Joe. Look at this. Sunday, 21Z. Wow, this is what we were talking about yesterday.
Right.
There's your cold front. And look at that. That looks very much like what we had last Saturday. And, we're only a few days away. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing more of this as we get on toward late Sunday. And as I said yesterday,
well, we had two.
Don't be surprised.
We had two bands that went through last Saturday.
Right.
The second band was
there was a prefrontal band. Right. That was the second band was with the actual front.
Right.
Now this looks like it could be the. I mean, let me just move forward a little bit, and. I don't know if that's going to be the actual front or not, but that does seem to signal or red flag that on Sunday, later in the day, we might again get into some snow showers or maybe even a heavy snow squall or two. So you want a cheap thrill, you may get it again late on Sunday if this is correct.
Jason Barry pointing out that the HRRR did really well with a few of these storms. In particular, did particularly well with the one back. What was it? A week and a half ago? When was that last one? I'm at the point of the winter now, Joe, where I'm starting to forget everything. So the last one, the trough to the west and the stuff offshore, and the WPC had that brilliant forecast that panned out.
And put us in the 4-inch area. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, the HRRR.
And we were all saying, what do they think? What are they thinking of?
And
And look what
yeah,
happened.
and Rick B says that the model did good for the sleet and ice storm yesterday in Arkansas. Yeah, it's very inconsistent though. I mean, I don't know about other places in the country. Maybe it works well away from the ocean. I don't. I'm not. I don't have any data that supports that contention. Just my own impression. I'm just talking, just talking out loud here. But maybe uh, maybe it works better in other parts of the country versus up here because it's been very inconsistent. In fact, it was a stretch back last year, if I remember, where there were a few people who worked on the model on a regular basis and were saying, there was something wrong, something was not working right. I've had a few people who use the RAP model. Bill Corbell mentioned when he was on with us last, he's a big fan of the RAP model. That the RAP model works very well, and the RAP model uh, also did work pretty well back a week or so ago with the last snow. I've been watching it today, so it's kind of doing the same thing like the HRRR has been doing, where it's 10 miles further north, 10 miles further south with the rain ice line. Of course, I got my snow removal guys that live just south of that rain ice line, so it's really critical that I figure out exactly where that is going to be, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to do that. But it's part of the world of forecasting, I guess. Okay, so let's go back. By the way, I figured out why that Omni flash is going on. I just figured it out, so it won't do it anymore we share the screen. So just so
And
you
the
know.
people at Omni are going to be
Omni's
very,
right. I
very
mean, they
upset
get
by
the
that.
extra. I mean, it almost looks like it almost
Subl-
subliminal seduction.
yeah, exactly. Especially in this type of situation. You want salt? You want Pelado? Eh.
Yes, exactly. So I'm not really seeing much here going forward on the GFS today on any of the last 3 or 4 runs. I've often said that when looking at the GFS in the long range and other models in the long range, when it's not there, if it shows you that we're not getting anything for 16 days, you know that that's not going to be the case. That something is going to happen somewhere along the line. So obviously it's going to change, but it does appear, at least into next week, which we have a little bit more confidence in terms of what the broad model pattern is. Take a look, for example, on Saturday. Joe, look at this map of the GFS on Saturday. I don't think there's a stitch, except for a couple of sprinkles there in South Texas. There isn't any precip at all from one coast to the other and from north to south. No snow, nothing on Saturday. At least in the
Well,
mor at
that's
least in the morning. Totally,
well, it's quiet. It's quiet.
yeah, at 1 a.m. Saturday, there's some rain right along the coast near Brownsville. That's it. And a little snow there in Colorado where Ruthless Goat is, and that's it. So there's your front for Saturday. You see it coming down through eastern Canada with a high behind it. You also could see, I'm sorry, on Sunday, and you can see there's a little low there off the North Carolina coast that comes out of some moisture that develops down in Texas and Louisiana on Saturday and Saturday night. But that low can't come up here because, as it turns out, this trough and trough axis too far to the east. So the front swings by. We get a shot of cold air. The coldest air will be up in New England. Then there's a little diver here, Joe, on Monday that runs through the Dakotas, a little low there in Illinois, that finds its way up into northern Pennsylvania and actually produces some light snow in upstate New York, western PA, and on up into New England with rain in southern, a small area, short period of rain in southern New England, and that goes out. Now we get a shot of very cold air for uh, looks like Thursday. The thickness skier gets down to 504. So that's a pretty decent shot of cold air that moves into the eastern states, and it stays with us. Of course, the maps are taking forever to load tonight. All right, come on. Really? One, two. All right, there's your high. So we're cold on Thursday. Doesn't want to get us to Friday. Let me shut a couple of windows. Hang on a second. Maybe that'll help. Take a Okay, the rest of them shouldn't really interfere. All right, so there's your high. It goes out off the coast. Here comes the next cold front for Saturday and Sunday. Some showers with that. That goes out. Then we got another low that moves across the southern lakes into upstate New York with some showers here. And on it goes. So I mean, there really isn't anything too exciting here going through next week. There is a cold high that comes down after, day 10, but who knows if that's even there or not. So we're just going to sort of leave it at that. And when we come back on Sunday, maybe we'll have other things to look at. The East Pacific Oscillation, Joe, is still forecast to go strongly negative for the first half of March. However, I will tell you that the PNA, the Pacific North America Index, is going to go negative, which means we're going to have a trough in the West. Now, if we, with the negative EPO the way it is, and the PNA negative, if the NAO were negative, then we could get some interesting types of weather here. But the NAO is just stubbornly, low-level positive for the next 2 weeks. Some hints toward the end of the period where some of the members want to go to the neutral line. But it's been positive through the whole winter. It's amazing how that happens.
And with that, it's status quo. Or may I, if I change it to a weather pun, stratus quo.
Yes, status quo works. 107 likes.
Yeah.
Joe, 107 likes tonight. Thank you. We broke over 100 and didn't have to ask. We've got 200 viewers on right now. Any of you are new, welcome to the show. The Joe and Joe Weather Show on Sunday at 11 a.m., which will be our next broadcast, and then Monday through Thursday we are on at 7:30 Eastern Time. And just subscribe to my YouTube channel with your Gmail account so you can get notifications every time the Joe and Joe Weather Show is on, and you can participate in the conversation on the chat board, which gets hot and heavy weather-wise sometimes. So, do you have a Briller Jeopardy for me, by the way?
Do I? I'm going to look. I'm not sure. Like I said, it was so crazy for me today. I haven't had a chance to do my usual.
I'll check on my end.
Slate here. Wait a minute. I think I do have Briller Jeopardy. Yes, I do have Briller Jeopardy tonight. And this is, let's see. Here is a Briller Jeopardy for one of Mr. Chiaffi's favorite. One of your favorite shows, Joe. You ready for this? The category Dark Shadows.
Oh, good Lord. Yes. I was actually reading an article about Catherine Lee Scott the other day, who played Josette and Maggie Evans and so on.
Well, you just answered, I think, the first question. Who was the great love of Barnabas?
Oh, Josette. Played by Catherine Lee Scott.
And what was the last name? What was Josette's last name?
Dupre.
Exactly. How about number 2 here, which is what supernatural being was Laura Collins?
Oh, she was a phoenix.
Really? She's a bird that burned up every 500 years? Is that?
No, she would burn up and then come back to life. So she was a phoenix.
Oh, okay. To me, a phoenix was a bird, a mythical bird that.
Right, but if she did that whole
every 500 years.
Yeah, that was her thing, though.
All right.
She would just go up in flames every once in a while.
All right. So we have number 3 here. What is the occupation? As the executive producer is playing with my lighting, do you want me to change the? You want me to change the lighting here? I turned it. Now I completely turned it off. Too bright. All right. Hold on for a second. Hold on. No. I'm sorry.
These
about
are usually
this,
things you're supposed to do before the show is on.
How about this?
At regular TV stations, they check the lighting, but
Yes, but
we just wing it here.
This is a cheap show.
Yes, I'll say.
What is the occupation? What is the occupation of Victoria Winters?
Oh, she's the governess.
Correct. But you know that you know your Dark
Do you
Shadows,
know who
Joe.
Victoria Winters, the actress who played Victoria
I
Winters?
don't know
Okay. The
anything about
actress who
Dark
played
Shadows.
uh, uh, Victoria Winters was Alexandra Moltke. And do you know who Alexandra Moltke was? I'm
No.
going to tell you. She was. Do you remember the case of Klaus von Bülow, who was accused of?
Yes.
Okay, she was the other woman that was part of that case.
Really?
Yes,
Well, I'm sure that Klaus enjoyed it for as long as it could run, right?
I suppose. But
I
anyway,
have I've I
I
have
just
no
wanted to put that
but I
out
have a,
there.
well, all of you who are Dark Shadow fans, now you've learned something tonight. What was the first names of Barnabas's parents?
Oh, his father was Edmund. Edmund Collins. Was it Edmund? Joshua. I'm sorry. Was Joshua Collins. Was his father, and I'm going to say Naomi Collins was his mother, who was played by the great Joan Bennett, part of the Bennett sisters, who were very big in movies in the 30s and 40s. Joan Bennett was opposite Spencer Tracy and Elizabeth Taylor in Father of the Bride, in the original Father of the Bride.
You gave such a great dissertation there, but unfortunately, you were dead wrong on both names. This is according to the chairman. Scott says that the first names of Barnabas's parents were Jake and Laura.
No. No.
No? You dare to contradict the chairman?
No, Joshua Collins and Naomi Collins was his mother and father. Because Barnabas came to remember he's a vampire, so he goes back to in the 1700s when they first came in 1797. So his father was Joshua, and it was his father who sealed him in the tomb at Barnabas's request, chained up the coffin, which was not opened until Willie Loomis opened up the coffin in 1966.
Are you getting all this down, folks? What is the name? This is number 5. What is the name of the tavern in Collinsport?
Oh, God. And I can hear the tacky music, the tacky 60s music that they were playing in the background. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, Joe, I'm not.
How about
the blue whale?
The
The
blue
blue whale.
whale.
Yes, the blue
Yes.
whale.
How about number 6? What is the name of the mansion the modern times Collins family lives in?
Well, now I can't remember the name of the mansion, but it's up in the Hudson Valley, where they filmed, that's the shots that they use, and then they used it in 2 of the movies that they did, House of Dark Shadows and Night of Dark Shadows. That mansion is up in the Hudson Valley, but I forgot the name of it. In fact,
Collinwood.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood the question. The actual
What was the name of the name of the mansion?
Yeah, Collinwood was the mansion. There was the old house, and then in 1797 they were building the new house, and they all moved into the new house because Angelique had other ideas. But the actual house that they used in a lot of the shots is a mansion that's up in the Hudson Valley somewhere. And in fact, the Dark Shadows fan club, when it meets in New York, I don't know if they still do, and of course with COVID maybe they didn't, but they would do, one of the things they would do is they'd have a tour bus that would go up and take you up there.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
After all these years, and it's over 50 years ago. And this show was on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, you
Monday
know what?
Friday,
it goes back to right when I was between the ages of 6 and 11, and it goes back to that's the part of my brain that still works is the memory. The stuff that happened 40 or 50 years ago. The stuff that happened 40 or 50 minutes or even 40, 50 seconds ago, I have no clue about. But go ahead.
Right.
What was your name again?
Mine, never mind. Mine, Number 7. What is Elizabeth brother first name?
Oh, oh God, he's right in front of me, and he played Langley Wallingford in All My Children. What was his name? Oh God, and I met him actually, and he gave me a couple of CDs because he also sang in the in clubs in New York City. His face is right in front of me. I can't remember his name and the actor's name. I can't remember
I'll give
either.
you a hint. I'll give you a hint. It's the first name of the New York Yankee who hit 61 home runs in 1961.
Oh, Roger. It's Roger Collins.
Yes,
Yes.
not to be confused with Roger Maris.
Right.
How many, within 422, Joe, how many episodes were made
Oh,
of Dark Shadows?
1,226.
I'm amazed you were off by just one. How did you know? How did you come up with such an exacting figure?
Because I remembered that I was that's the number that popped into my head, and I knew it was 1,200. I wasn't sure if it was 1,210 or 1,220, but 1,226 felt good. And one of
Well,
those episodes,
you
by the way, it would have been 1,226, but one of those episodes was, they filmed it, and somebody spilled, like, you know liquor all over it. So they had to actually do the show. They had to actually do the show live because the film was just not usable. So maybe that's the missing episode.
1225.
Yes, 1225.
And I think because of what you just described, if you remember in the movie Tootsie, the scene where they had to
Yes.
redo the scene where Dustin Hoffman reveals that he's really a man and not a woman. The reason that he had to redo that was because somebody spilled, I think, Fox's "You Bet" or seltzer or something on the tape, and I forget who the actor was, but he said, "I don't understand why we can't
Yeah.
reuse that tape. It'll just be a little sticky." You remember that?
Yeah, because he didn't want to do it live.
Exactly. Exactly. Number 9, who were the only 2 cast members on the first and last shows?
I'm going to say on the first and last show. Okay, so it definitely wasn't Jonathan Frid because they brought him in. They brought him in like 300 episodes, a couple of hundred episodes in. The show was going to get canceled, and Dan Curtis decided, okay, you know what? We're going to get canceled, so I'm just going to go crazy and I'm going to bring in a vampire. And it took off. And it suddenly became this huge hit in the soap opera world. I'm going to say the only 2 cast members. Is that the question?
Who were the only 2 cast members on the first show and on the last show?
All right. I mean, my only guesses was either Joan Bennett, who played Elizabeth Collins Stoddard, because I'm pretty sure she
Right,
was on the first show.
right.
The other one, well, I mean, the only other one I could think of, but I don't even know. Did he last till the end? Was the actor who played Roger Collins? I don't. I'm
It
not.
was
Joan Bennett was one of
Joan
them.
Bennett, Joan Bennett, Elizabeth Collins, and Louis
Louis
Edmund.
Edmonds, who played Roger Collins. Yes, Louis Edmonds. Louis
Yes.
Edmonds. Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
And there you are. Final question before we go to the bonus round or the bonus question. Number 10, when Dark Shadows went off the air in 1971, and I do know, Joe, that when it did go off the air, you probably were wearing for a solid week a black armband
Yes. Oh,
because of the
absolutely.
death of Dark Shadow.
I was furious
Yes.
that they canceled
What?
the show. I even called ABC about it.
So what
I even
show,
called
Joe?
Channel 5 and asked them to pick it up and continue
Pick
the
it
run.
up.
Yes, I swear I did. I swear to God.
What show replaced Dark Shadows? Was it A, Password, B, Follow Your Shadow, C, All in the Family, or D, Soul Train?
Oh, it had to be a game show, so I'm gonna say password.
And you were correct. It was Password, and that was the Password people. Password fans were rejoicing because after so many years on Channel Two, they just arbitrarily canceled it, and it had no place to go until Channel 7 or ABC said, "All right, we're going to get rid of Dark Shadows and we'll bring Password in." And that's what happened. 4 o'clock on weekdays, starting in 1971. Password, and the bonus name, one network where you can still see Dark Shadows.
Well, I know I can watch it on Pluto on my phone because I've been watching it from time to time.
Right. He's got Pluto. He's got Tubi or Hulu.
Or Hulu. I'm gonna Pluto because I've been watching it on Pluto.
Well, I think all three are correct because he
Oh,
didn't tell me
all
which
three are
one.
carrying it.
I think all three. I guess all three.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have
He
Hulu.
said, name one never. Now, a quick Dark Shadows anecdote, and this is a true story. In 1969, in July of 1969, the New York Mets were having a big series with the Chicago Cubs, a 3-game series. By the way, the second game of that series was this game where Tom Seaver almost pitched a perfect game. But in the first game of that 3-game series, the Cubs were ahead of the Mets going into the bottom of the ninth, 3-1, and the Mets were mounting a rally. The game was on WOR TV Channel 9. A guy by the name of Frank Graddock was watching the game intently as the Mets were mounting a rally. And then all of a sudden, at the stroke of 4 o'clock, his wife came in and just went over to the TV and turned it from Channel 9 to Channel 7 because she wanted to watch Dark Shadows. And he got very upset and turned it back to Channel 9, and she turned it back to Channel 7. And you mentioned the name Angelique.
Yes.
There was apparently this was an episode where Angelique was going to meet with a werewolf or something, and it was going to be like a turning point in the story line or the story arc of recent days. And so Frank Graddock's wife wanted desperately to see this. I guess they only had one TV. He wanted to see the Met game. They're going back and forth, and finally a fight ensued. And here's the sad part to the story. Frank Graddock got a little bit too overly tempestuous with his fists and punched and punched
Oh,
his wife.
God.
His wife went into the bedroom, lay down on the bed, and that's where he found her some
Oh,
hours later. He was celebrating the fact that the Mets won, but I think right now he's probably, if he's still alive, he's in jail because
yeah, I don't think
um,
so.
well, it was 50
You
years ago,
think?
or more than 50 years ago. I don't mean to laugh at this, but the guy killed his wife because he wanted to watch the Met game. She wanted to watch Dark Shadows. There's a big fight because they're going back and forth until finally he just blew a gasket. And that is a true story.
And,
And
and,
there is the Dark Shadows
and we
connection.
should also point out for the youngins on there that you couldn't watch television on your phone in those days. And in fact,
No, you couldn't.
and in fact, uh, most people only had one television set in their house.
Right,
It was rare.
right.
If you had two television sets in your house, you were rich. Okay, you had money.
Yeah,
So just
yes.
to point that out, it was a different world then. So the idea, because you could say, well, why didn't she just go watch it on another TV in the house? That's because more than likely they only had the one television set.
They only had one television. Yeah.
Yes.
Billy the Kid, no, that was not the Black Cat game. The Black Cat game came in September when the Cubs came back to Shea Stadium. That was a game that was a 3-game series that they played in July of 1969. The Mets, for the first time, were suddenly considered contenders, and they won that game. They won the game with Tom Seaver almost pitching a perfect game, and they lost the third game. But it was a very exciting time if you were a baseball fan. Not so exciting if you wanted to see Dark Shadows and your husband wanted to watch the Mets in 1969.
And I went, by the way, I one year when they had, I was working at Pix, and they had the Dark Shadows fan club was meeting in New York in Times at a hotel in Times Square, and I went there, and I got to meet some of the actors uh, that were on the show. It was really it was actually quite cool. a lot of the people that were into the show, I guess from today's standards, when you see what goes on at things like Comic-Con and other people get dressed up as the characters and that kind of thing. So there were a few people like that, which I thought was sort of a little strange because I really didn't know about the fan world at the time. But now, of course, it's
Right.
it's it's very commonplace. But it was very cool to meet some of the cast members and listen to their conversations and their stories with regards to the show. There are, by the way, the actress Marsha Mason, okay, uh, who was in The Goodbye Girl, if I remember correctly, with Richard Dreyfuss. That she was on the show in a like for 2 episodes, but it was sort of like one of her first acting jobs. There were actually Kate Jackson from Charlie's Angels in the
Yes.
latter part of the series. She was one of the main characters there. She eventually left the show after about a year or so, but she was on the show as well. So there's actually quite a few famous people that had bit parts in there or cameo appearances and that kind of thing. But you know what?
I saw
You have
I
to
saw a
eat.
Perry I saw a Perry Mason yesterday morning on MeTV. They had Alan Reed, the skipper from Gilligan's
Oh
Island.
yeah.
He played like a Texan. He's wearing this big white 10-gallon hat. And Parley Bear, who was the voice of the Keebler Cookie Elf, he was in that. He was in there. It's so funny to see these people who you know from other television venues who get thrown into Perry's world. It was kind of weird. And by the way, they killed off Alan Hale halfway through the show, and that was the big thing. Like who killed the he played like a rich cowboy
Right.
on
Oh, I've
this
seen that
particular
episode.
episode.
Alan Hale. It's very funny how if you look at there was Alan Hale Sr. and Alan Hale Jr. and he was Alan Hale
Junior.
Jr. It's amazing how much he and his father look alike. They almost look like twins. When you look at Alan Hale Sr. in old movies, he was in Robin Hood, uh, the one with oh God, his face is right in front of me. What was his name?
I know who you're talking about.
The actor Errol Flynn.
In fact,
the Errol Flynn Robin
Errol
Hood.
Flynn. In fact,
Alan Hale's.
a small segment of that movie appeared in a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Do you remember?
Yes, Alan Hale Sr. was in that movie, and he played. I think he played the king, and he and his son, or they could be twins. They look so much alike.
Don't you worry, never fear. Robin Hood will soon be here.
Yes.
And by the way, Alan Reed Jr. appeared in a Batman episode.
Yes.
He played the proprietor. He played the proprietor of like a diner or whatever. And Chief O'Hara came in, and he's addressing Alan Hale as the guy who owns the diner. And the guy who owned the diner was Gilligan. He's calling Alan Hale Gilligan on the show.
I never picked up on that. That's too funny. And the shows were on different networks too, so that's even funnier.
Right.
Oh God. Yep. All right. Well, you know what? We've chewed up enough time on this Thursday, so let's take 2 days off and get the show on the road with regards to this ice and rain and snow and then whatever else happens, and then we've got a break. We've got a break for a little while, which is nice, and maybe on Sunday we'll have snow squalls to talk about, which would be most exciting.
Yes. It'll be the snow squall edition of Joe and Joe on Sunday.
Right.
I predict that's what we'll be talking about on Sunday will be the potential of another round of squalls. We'll see.
All right. So everybody, thanks for being here tonight, spending another night with us. Love doing this, and glad you're coming on a regular basis. It's terrific to see the same folks every night on the chat board, just loyal and watching the show and participating in conversation and asking questions, and Joe and I love it. So we'll be back on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Mr. Rayo, have a good 2 days off, and we'll see you on Sunday.
No problema. We'll see you then.
Good night, everybody.
Night-night.